So pangolins are the most trafficked mammals on the planet, with all 8 species across the globe considered threatened. And sadly, in the last 10 years, over 1 million pangolins have been poached from the wild, which works out to 1 pangolin every 6 minutes. They're sold for their scales and their meat, and sadly, very few are kept alive. In South Africa, between 30 and 50 pangolins are extricated from the black market every single year in sting operations. They are kept without food or water, they become dehydrated and malnourished, and a lot of them are stored in cooler boxes, backpacks, or in the boots of cars. And very few of these animals actually end up recovering and rewilding, because as many as 30% of these pangolins end up dying before they can be rewilded. The ones that do survive, we put a lot of energy into and invest a lot of resources. And those animals then come down to the game reserve and are put into a soft release phase, which is basically a very intensive monitoring stage where we put a lot of time and energy and human resources into monitoring them daily and spending time with them. And the goal for us is to see that they can establish in the game reserve, acclimatize to the weather and the temperatures of Zululand, which is obviously very hot. And this obviously allows us a very critical opportunity to view them in their natural habitat. So pangolins have actually been extinct in KwaZulu-Natal for decades. The reintroduction of pangolins on Manyoni has been one of our most interesting, heartfelt and scary projects that we've ever undertaken. So pangolins are nocturnal, which means that they are active and feeding when most of us are trying to have a good night's sleep. Not many people are excited at the prospect of walking around a Big 5 game reserve at night. Pangolins also don't like staying inside fences, so we have to go and rescue them at 1 o'clock in the morning to ensure that they don't encounter the N2 highway or any of the community land in the west of the game reserve. Because of their size, they are very difficult to use tracking technology on. Batteries have to be changed very regularly, and they have the tendency to rip off their tags at a moment's notice. So we've just about crawled, climbed and fallen over and into just about everything in the rain, in the heat. And without a doubt, it's been one of the most worthwhile projects I've ever been a part of.
So we're at Manyoni Private Game Reserve. It's a Big 5 game reserve in northern KZN, South Africa. So Manyoni's got a healthy population of rhino, and therefore we have to implement a lot of measures to protect the rhino, and one of them is to dehorn our animals. I mean, this is an ongoing thing that we have to do to keep our population safe.
Basically, we don't make up the darts before we see the rhino, because they're all different sizes. Also, certain times of the year, they're in better condition than they are at other times. And so I adjust my dose for condition, for size, and for age.
So what's important about this is it allows us to run a DNA profile on all the rhino that have been immobilized, so that if they confiscate or horn at our Tamba or one of our ports of entry, they can now link it to wherever the rhino was potentially poached.
Once we've completed the dehorning process, we remove all the personnel, everybody out of the area, wake the rhino up, and the joy of it is to see that rhino get up in as good a condition as when it went down. Gets up, runs off, and hopefully like nothing's ever happened to him.
We've explored all the options that we have available to us to try and prevent us from losing more rhino, and we have to dehorn our entire population. You know, from a personal perspective, I would rather say stuff it. We're going to fight. We will not deface our rhinos, but I know that I'm going to attend the next crime scene tomorrow or the day after, and I'm going to think to myself, well, what if we dehorn these animals and they would be alive? Exactly. And I don't want to carry that conscience.
You know, when you hear people starting chainsaws and getting this kind of equipment ready, you don't think of wildlife management.
So at the orphanage, we look after injured or orphaned rhino calves that have been orphaned out in the wild, either due to their mothers being poached or injured, naturally dying. We teach them how to be rhinos so that they can live out in the wild again one day. When they're little babies, it involves being with them 24 hours a day, giving them lots of love and care and attention, because they would be with their mom, you know, out in the wild for 2 to 3 years. You can imagine spending so much time with a rhino calf. You get very attached, especially with Leko, because he's my very first baby from day one. So I'm very attached to him, but I still feel excited for his future in the wild, because that's where he needs to be. The circumstances that get them to come here are often very sad, and they do make me very angry and very upset that things like that happen. Honestly, I have no idea what the future holds for rhinos. Yeah, it makes me emotional actually, because, yeah, sorry. Since working at the Zululand Rhino Orphanage, especially with Leko, he's really touched my heart. And yeah, I don't know what the future holds. I don't think it's a good future, but I think we need to do everything that we can to try and save them, because they're very special and we need to help them.
I guard our rhinos.
We protect our future.
I guard.
I conserve our land.
We
Protect our future.
I conserve
Our life.
I protect rhino. I love nature.
We protect our future.
God, our
I save our pangolins. I guard our rhino.
I
Protect a rhino. I love nature.
I conserve
Our wildlife.
I love our rain.